Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Fantasy Flight Games going into crowdfunding. This is a big news. You may have heard a little bit about Asmodee going into crowdfunding. We're going to talk about Fantasy Flight Games specifically and what this means for the future. A lot of stuff to unpack here. We're going to dive into all of it. A little admin stuff first. For one, check the links in the description below. Love to have you join our Discord, social media links, all that other stuff. Codes for Battle Foam. If you're interested in doing any of that, you're going to save 15%. All of that stuff you can find up in the little bar above, and then links in the description below. Also, we are doing 12 Days of Life Day again this year, which means in the month of December, 12 times we're going to have at the end of one of my videos surprise giveaways. If you want to have a chance to enter to win any of these awesome and amazing giveaways, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. I want to hear from you guys what you want to see out of Fantasy Flight Games going to crowdfunding. This is going to be really, really exciting. So earlier in this year, we got lots of news from Simon, with properties being transferred over to Asmodee, Cthulhu Death May Die, and Zombicide among those properties. Zombicide being probably the most popular and well-known game, especially the kind of title that launched crowdfunding for board games with its tremendous success on Kickstarter over the years, being like one of the all-time most popular and biggest selling games of all time. I think I said all-time too many times there. We're going to say all-time one more time. All-time. All right, let's go. Zombicide is a great co-op and soloable game, and Cthulhu Death May Die has a lot of those mentalities too. They both work very, very well into the crowdfunding arena with successful campaigns, very cool, minions and shoot 'em ups and all. And like, hey, let's work together to accomplish this goal. Those were going over to Asmodee, but they have announced at Fantasy Flight's in-flight report, which was put on this weekend over at Pax Unplugged, that, and again, a lot of stuff they talked about. A lot of it was Star Wars Unlimited, a lot of cool new stuff coming for that. But there's a really important section in the middle of their brief where they talk about crowdfunding. You kick things off. Cthulhu Death May Die is going to crowdfunding. They're going to be relaunching the campaign. You're going to be able to get in if you ever missed the campaign and wanted to kind of get back into it. They're going to be relaunching this on Gamefound. They're doing this. It looks like they're not going to be using Kickstarter, but Gamefound specifically, which is kind of the way that most board game and tabletop gaming companies have been kind of going. It's very popular. It's a very reliable, really good interface. It's like built specifically for gaming, for tabletop gaming, for board games, and all of that. So very trustworthy and reliable platform. Very cool. So if you're interested in Cthulhu Death May Die, you can do that. Zombicide is one that I'm a little more familiar with. I love Zombicide. It was one of my first board game purchases ever when I started getting into like wider board game meta, the kind of current board game economy that we're in right now. They're doing a Squid Game coming out in summer 2026, which is going to be a fun one. This one will be under the Zombicide second edition one, which is kind of the classic modern era Zombicide. They're going to feature both zombies and then all the characters from Squid Game. They also pointed out that creepy little doll, which even if you haven't seen Squid Game, I'm sure you've seen the little girl doll that like walks around and like finds you and then you die. Right? Her head is actually going to spin, which is going to be kind of crazy. So I think fans of Squid Game, fans of Zombicide, this is going to be a easy one for you, which seems very cool. But they're coming back. They're going to be doing even more with Zombicide. They did not tell us very much about this, but this is in the Zombicide fantasy era. Think Zombicide, Black Plague, Green Horde, etc. This is my favorite era of Zombicide. I'm very interested in a pirate-themed one. It's called Dead Men Tales. They didn't tell us very much about this, but this one is coming again, presumably also to Gamefound, although they didn't actually, specifically promote Gamefound with this one, because again, with these titles, sometimes they've done like direct to retail stuff, and then other times they do Gamefound campaigns. It seems like this one is also going to Gamefound. Now, that is all fine and good. This is where it gets really interesting, because if you follow my channel, you're probably following for like Star Wars games or Star Trek games or other licensed content and big sci-fi things like that. Fantasy Flight kind of kicked off all of that with X-Wing and then Armada and Legion and Rebellion and all the other Star Wars games and Imperial Assault and all of this wild stuff. A lot of those games aren't around anymore. There's a lot of other games that they've made that aren't around anymore. They have announced the Vault series coming in 2026. This is the big chunk, and this is the most exciting thing that I want to talk and spend some time on. They have talked about this is going to be bringing board games back. They're going to basically, the Vault series is going to bring old board games back, and this way you can do them on demand. You don't have to do a whole print run for something. It's like, how many people really want that old board game that we don't have anymore? You know, how many people want that old Fury of Dracula or something like that? All right, so this is a way for them to do that. And again, it's an on-demand thing. There's a lower risk, less warehouse storage that you need to be able to have to do all this stuff if you're doing everything crowdfunding. I think it works. I think it's a great way to give people more options to get stuff that might not actually work sitting on a store shelf, but you can still get access to it if enough people are on board. This is a cool thing. They talk about this as though it's going to be the original game is not a second edition. They're not going to be taking these old games and making new editions of them, but they may give like the rules an updated pass, kind of make the rule books more accessible. Some of the rules were written, you know, in a way that was very like 2002 versus 2026 kind of sensibilities, so they can apply that. Maybe even some quality of life improvements they talked about with these too. And I think, you know, games that have been out for a long time, there are people like, oh man, I really wish these tokens were shaped a little differently so they could fit, you know, in the thing, or, you know, things like that. They said you might look at this in some cases as a deluxe or a collector's edition kind of version of these. They may update the art a little bit on some of them too. So it may not be an exact one-to-one reprint of the original classic games, but as far as the actual gameplay involved, you should still get the original gameplay of the original classic games. So which games? They did not say, which leads me into lots of speculation, because I think there's a lot of people who think, oh, FFG games that are out of print, does that mean I'm going to be getting all of those awesome old games that I really want? There's a lot of like holy grail games. And for me, StarCraft, the board game, was one I always wanted. Battlestar Galactica, one of my favorite games. Now, they do have another version of that in the Cthulhu mythos right now, so I don't... Games like this, you know, all the Warhammer stuff, the Blizzard stuff, Battlestar Galactica stuff, I don't think these are things that we're going to see reprinted. I don't think the licensing agreement that they had allowed them to take these old games that they can't make anymore now and then put them on Gamefound or whatever. I would stake my reputation that unless they have a new agreement, these games aren't coming back. This is not what we're going to see, especially because of the fact that they have they kind of will take some game systems like this and apply a new, you know, like they did with Battlestar Galactica. And then I think Forbidden Stars was kind of like an upgrade of like StarCraft the board game and stuff. So like a lot of things were kind of, you know, let's take the same stuff but put a different skin on it and make a different one. So I think for those classic games that you want, you're more likely to get an updated skin to something like this, as they've already done. So I don't think we're going to see the stuff they don't have license to anymore. That being said, there's some stuff that I think we are more likely to see. I think Wiz War is one of those classic ones. This is a great game. I have a copy of it. I hardly ever get to play anymore, but it's really cool. And it's also kind of convoluted. It was a kind of a rules heavy thing, and maybe this is one that could use a nice updated rules pass for Wiz War. It's definitely a possibility. Maybe clean it up a little bit. Maybe make it easier for people to understand. You know, update the rulebook a little bit and get another version of Wiz War out there. It's a fun game. It's a little bit chaotic too. It's pretty cool, cool game. Other licenses they already have, right? Like all of the Terranoths stuff. I can see why they wouldn't want to like make a new edition of Descent. And I mean, there's been multiple editions already. They have a current version out there right now, but I wonder in the Descent community how many people are saying, yeah, but I liked the old version better. Can you do that? Again, that's kind of where Imperial Assault came from. I really enjoyed it. I played Descent 2nd Edition for a while. I played a campaign with a friend. It was a cool game. And maybe they'll take one of the early versions of Descent and make that one available again too. And this way it wouldn't overwrite what they currently have, but it might give some people options, and it would really depend how many people wanted that, if it were going to fund or not on Gamefound. It's a cool option. Also in that world, Runebound. There's been a lot of people who have, been big fans of this series. I will say, one, I don't think that they would do. I don't know if they would do it or not, but it was one that I really, really liked. My favorite game from this whole series was Rune Wars miniatures game. This was a great game. This one was a miniatures game though, so I don't even know if it were to get brought back, if FFG would be at the helm, or if AMG would be involved and all, because like Rune Wars, the miniatures game, had an FFG feel. If you've ever played this game, it, like everything from the mechanics to the tokens to the dice, everything about the game, it felt like it it was an FFG game. It tasted like an FFG game. I didn't actually lick the box or anything like that, but it was truly an FFG game, and I say that, and I mean that in all of the best ways. It was a very fun, very cool game that just sort of kind of vanished before it really got started. But this would be a really cool one to bring back. This had a lot of potential, and I think what really hurt this one was that Legion came out so close to it that it stole all the thunder and all of the hype for the dudes on a map ground-based skirmish miniatures game. And then Rune Wars was like, oh gosh, nobody is interested in us anymore. That's how it seemed to me. I know a lot of my energy was interested in Rune Wars shifted over to Legion. As soon as Legion was announced. I never bought another product for Rune Wars miniatures game. And I kind of wish it was still out there. I wouldn't mind playing it again at some point. It was kind of fun. Actually, it was more than kind of fun. It was very fun. It wasn't perfect. I wish it could have done the terrain a little differently, but it was a very cool game. Love to see it. So outside of the game lines that they're already on, that could be like early Twilight Imperium versions. I don't really see that. I don't know if there's enough demand for like an old Twilight Imperium, because I feel like each edition kind of takes everything from the old edition and brings it up again. But there could be some other old titles, and let me know if there's titles that you want to see them kind of bring back that kind of aren't around anymore. So I want to talk about other licensed stuff that they do have. Right, there was some old Lord of the Rings things, but I want to talk about Star Wars. I cover a lot of Star Wars on this game. Some of this stuff isn't necessarily out of print, but maybe they could do a rules pass on it. Star Wars Rebellion is one that I play an awful lot. There's all kinds of little rules questions and little things of like loopholes and like, what about this? What about this? Oh, good. What happens in this case? Oh, that's a really tough one. Does that happen first? Which, there's a lot of that. This is one that could actually stand for an updated rule book. And if they were to make like a deluxe edition of Star Wars Rebellion, I would 100% get it. I play this game enough. I've already bought 2 copies of both this game and its expansion just because I played the first one into oblivion, and then the cards started getting rubbed raw and things like that, and the components were just getting used so much that they got worn out. It tells you a lot about how much I love this board game. But all of the Star Wars games, it's not just Rebellion. I mean, I would love for them to make like a Clone Wars version of Rebellion or a Rebellion 2nd edition, but that's not really what they're doing with the Vault series. I feel like there's other things that they could do. I feel like Imperial Assault could get a run through the Vault series. There's a lot of expansions for Imperial Assault that just aren't there anymore, but that goes into licensing and board game licensing, and there was this whole deal with Hasbro years ago, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of prevented the growth from that. I wonder if there's a loophole that would allow them to kind of get Imperial Assault going again if it were via Gamefound instead of being on store shelves. So that's a really exciting possibility. There's a lot of different things they could potentially do with Star Wars and board games if they wanted to, and if they even could. I don't know enough about their licensing to know if Lucasfilm will allow them to take a Star Wars IP and put it on a crowdfunding website. That may be something that they're not allowed to do, but if they could, oh my goodness, this would be crazy. Because again, not only could they do Star Wars Zombicide, again, Fantasy Flight already has Star Wars, and now they have Zombicide. You've already got these things. Do it now. That one might be a direct to retail, might not go through Gamefound, and if they, and that will be very telling if we do see a Star Wars Zombicide announced and it's a straight to retail and it bypasses Gamefound. That would probably be, all you need to know about that. But I'm curious about a lot of these things. But the options are very bright, and it's really exciting to see what the future might hold, especially for things that might be a little risky. I don't know if how many people really want more Imperial Assault, how many people really want a 2nd edition of Star Wars Rebellion. It's a great way to get your finger on the pulse of your customer base and find out what they want. And I am definitely here for it, because Fantasy Flight Games has made some of the best board games in history, and I'd love to get a chance to check out some of the older ones and see what the future holds. So that's the update. Zombicide's got some cool stuff, a lot of Gamefound stuff, a lot of crowdfunding stuff that's going to be coming out of Fantasy Flight Games. We've got more to talk about soon too, so stick around. Hopefully you guys are prepping for a nice Thanksgiving vacation if you celebrate. If not, hopefully you just have a great week. And I will talk to you more throughout this week. Hopefully you have a wonderful time. Happy holidays. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.